Hey there, you, me, and DC fans, and welcome if you are new. I am the stepson of Krypton, and this crazy
Mantis.
bastard is Mantis. And today, we're going to go and get this right out of the way. This is a review of Deadpool and Wolverine. There is going to be heavy, heavy spoilers. If you have not seen the movie,
Get
do
the
not
fuck
watch
out.
this. Do not watch this video. If you are that type of person that wants to be spoiled by all of the things that happen in the movie before you go see it, I want better for you. You do need help. The whole point of going to watch the movie is to be excited about the. I went into it knowing more than I wanted to. So turn away.
Look away, child. Look away!
Come back after you watch the movie, and then you can watch this video. So, Mantis, let's go ahead and get on into the discussion. Got a lot
Let's
to talk
fucking
about.
go.
Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go.
All right, guys, if you have been a fan of the channel for a while, you know that when the original Deadpool 3 trailer did release, we did a rather lengthy review of it, breaking down all of the Easter eggs that we had spotted, characters, people, objects, everything that we possibly could. It's like a 50-minute long video. If you have an extra 50 minutes to spare, go watch it. I'll have it down below in the links, and it'll be popping up on the screen. It's good stuff, but if you haven't seen the movie, if you've seen it by then, you know, hopefully you'll know. And then if what you don't learn from that video, you're going to learn from this one. So, Mantis, do you want to kick off? How did you feel about the movie?
I enjoyed it. I think it's probably, I said this when we got out of the film. Luckily, I said it as we were walking through the parking lot, not standing in front of cars where people can't, take your parking spot because you've already seen the movie. Yeah, that never happens to anyone, I'm sure. But I said it was probably the best Marvel movie that they've put out in maybe, 5 years. I mean, it was, I enjoyed it. It was a good flick. It was a fun movie. But there are some hangups I have with it, and we'll get into that.
Where would you rank it as far as the Deadpool movies?
I still would rank it third. That's not saying it's bad. I just think the first Deadpool movie is awesome. The first Deadpool movie is hilarious. It's great. I love it. I love the first Deadpool movie. The second one, not as good as the first one. This one, and again, for various reasons that we'll get into later in this video, is reason why I would put it third.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, let's get on into some of those reasons. Okay, so right off the bat, where do you want to start? Do you want to start from the very beginning?
Yeah. Beginning's a great part to fucking start.
Thank you, smartass. I'm just saying, you're talking about these reasons. I'm like, you want to jump into that first because, guys, we're doing this off the cuff. Like, we got out of the theater literally at about 1:00 this morning, and then I had to go to work this morning and work a full day. So now we're just, as soon as I got off work, we're recording this video. So we're trying to get it out as soon as possible. So forgive us. We're both a little sleepy.
I've been smoking large amounts of meat logs.
Excuse me, would you like to taste my smoked meat log?
All day and drinking heavily because it's the weekend and this week sucked. So I will say the beginning of the movie was good. It was funny. The dance routine was great. Again, the whole bye 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 stuff was funny. Just because growing up in the 2000s, it's just a thing.
Whether you like them or not, you know that dance, right? Like you've seen people doing that dance. So
yeah, and it's a thing that is a theme throughout the movie, which is good and bad. But the only thing I guess the beginning that kind of threw me, that was kind of disappointing, was some of the CGI was a little iffy, especially the blood. But the dance routine and stuff was great. And it kind of it's funny because it kind of worked like a Quentin Tarantino movie to start off with. So that was interesting as well. I don't know if that's been done in a Marvel movie before. I'm trying to think through them of how they always started off the first 20 minutes or so, 20 to 30 minutes. But I can't think of a movie that started off
It's
that
definitely
way.
new for the MCU, right? Like
Okay,
this
yeah.
is definitely a thing. I get what you're talking about. The bones, the skeleton, like there were parts where you could
It
see
was
it
funny.
definitely. It didn't look real, like
Yeah.
they didn't. But again, I kind of almost look at it as like that's kind of a meant to, and then the blood thing. One, it is now a Disney movie, but also you're almost
Mhm.
making it comical. Like, so it's not
Sure.
necessarily. So I get that, but I also know how you are about CG.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I will say again, this movie is a comedy. Okay, like I came into this film obviously seeing the first two Deadpool movies as this is a rated R comedy movie, which again, I know you said this before, like this will be the highest grossing rated R film ever. I assume, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it may be I I thought I saw some numbers earlier. This may be the biggest opening weekend of Marvel ever. I don't know.
They predicted that it has a very good chance to be, because they're predicting a
Yeah,
$360 million opening weekend.
which is insanely crazy considering this has no, like, it's not like there's a storyline. This is like the third movie in a trilogy, or like this has major ramifications. I say major. I'm not saying it doesn't have any. I'm saying this doesn't have major ramifications on the phase 4 or whatever you want to call it of the MCU. So it's yeah.
So after watching the movie, it seems, for me at least, and I could be wrong, but it seems to have less ramifications than I thought it was going to.
I
Right.
agree.
And I
Yes.
think maybe that's where maybe what you're saying, that some of the issues with it is. So yes, we opening scenes, we see they're basically saying they had initially said they were not going to touch the Logan, like Logan happened, and I guess technically it kind of still did, but they even said at the beginning, nope, we're shitting all over that. We're literally
Yep.
desecrated his
Which is good.
remains. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
and it worked. And then of course, immediately the TVA goes into it, and then we get some flashbacks. Now the interesting thing here, so let's get into some of the meat of the movie, giggity, is we see a flashback, and we see him interviewing with Happy Hogan at that Stark Tower, and we're back several years into the past, and he's interviewing, but it does say for Earth 616, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the Avengers, the prime Earth, if you want to say for Marvel, the prime, and what they call in the movie, and they do just say it in the comics, well, the sacred timeline, like the prime Earth is Earth 616, right? So he's on Earth 616. That I remember, right? Like, I don't remember them discussing how he got to Earth 616, because the little time
Yeah.
device didn't take him there.
This is where I was gonna say the plot is, like, the story writing is kind of iffy for me, and not that it wasn't thought out. I'm saying as a viewer of the film, I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I couldn't follow, because it would jump, right? It was like Earth 10 whatever, like, and then, like you said,
100015,
yeah.
I believe it's 15,
Yeah.
is the Deadpool's universe.
Yeah, like, it was kind of confusing to figure out which one was which and what was going on where. Like, that's kind of, and at least at the beginning, once you get into it, they kind of elaborate on that kind of makes it make sense a little bit. So it wasn't that big a deal, but as when I was watching, I'm like, what the hell is happening? When is this? What's happening?
So let me correct, because I was but it's Earth 10005 is Deadpool's universe, right? And that's also the universe within, that's the Earth that the X-Men are from, right? So it did jump around a lot. I mean, like at first, because like when I watched the trailer, like I thought, okay, the TVA is grabbing him and bringing him to this. So I didn't really get why he's interviewing to be an Avenger when he's not on that Earth, right? How did he get to that universe?
Right. Yeah,
Then they actually
Go
never
ahead.
explain it.
yeah. I mean, in the fourth wall breaking, and again, this is nothing new for Deadpool. Like, it's just a thing with Deadpool. Like, and again, it's why Deadpool's great. It's why both of the main characters in this film are fantastic casting for it. It's not only great casting for those individual characters, but in Ryan Reynolds' case, there are plenty of callbacks to other characters that he's played in different movies. In the fact that he obviously points out that he's gonna that Hugh Jackman's gonna be doing this when he's 90. Like, there's so many like little timeline jokes and other movie jokes in there. It's fantastic. The thought of the comedic approach of how Deadpool would say things is literally how Ryan Reynolds talks, and it's what makes it work.
Well, I like even in there they're talking about doing cocaine. He's like, that's the one thing Feige said is off limits, right? They're calling it out, stuff like that, and it all worked, right? Like it happens quite a bit, and you would almost think like, okay, you're playing it too much, but I don't think so. I think it was just right. Like, it was perfect because where they just kind of kept throwing things in there. So I mean, I thought all of that worked. And then, okay, so we get to the TVA, and that's kind of where you'd wondered where he gets, because in the original trailer we broke down, he has adamantium swords, which is why he's able to hold his own against the fight with Wolverine. To which I'll say, half the movie is them fighting each other, right? Like,
it is.
Them
It could be
stabbing
called
each other.
Yeah, it could be literally called Deadpool versus Wolverine. Like, quite frankly, like, I mean, it's a part of the funny thing where they can't die. Like, so it's like, oh, what if they just keep fighting and one of, like, I mean, because there's the scene obviously, and where they're fighting in the what is it? It's not a Kia, it's a Honda.
It's the Honda Odyssey. Remember, he hates the Honda Odyssey.
And it's just like blood everywhere, right? And like, it's just funny, like, because they can't die, and that's the whole gimmick about both of them. So it was, I don't know, like, they're fighting and they're trying to kill each other, but it's not going to amount to anything through that whole, all of that. So,
and that's where I'll say, like, I could have maybe done with a little less fighting and a little more, how is this going to tie into the rest of the upcoming MCU projects, right? Like we said, we don't know how he got to the Earth 616 at the beginning, with everything going on with the TVA. We still don't know how it's going to tie into upcoming Marvel movies, Secret Wars, if it is going to, and all that. So I could have used a little less of them just hacking away at each other. And don't get me wrong, it was great, loved it. But, maybe it could have been dialed back even if it was 5 or 10 minutes, and we could have got a little more focus on where it's going to go from here.
And again, this movie is not content rich. It's not story arc driven or character evolution driven. The biggest evolution in this film is between both. It's both Wade and Wolverine, or Logan, where both of them, their characters evolve. Again, Wade at the beginning this premise is set up where he's very selfish, right? And his story arc, and when you get to the end, is, well, he needs to become selfless, do something more than just for himself, which is set up by Happy when he's doing the interview for the Avengers. And then obviously for Logan, the premise, which is, I'm gonna just, this is one thing that I fucking hate. It just is bullshit. He goes out and get drunk and comes back, and then everyone's dead. Like, I'm sorry, that's just fucking stupid. I don't know who wrote that. That's just dumb as fuck. But whatever, his story arc, he's a failure, which is obviously the funny thing that makes it funny, that he picks the worst Logan in all of the multiverse, and he has to make him, and he, redeems himself. He becomes honorable, and all of that stuff towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, but could we not have got a flashback to see?
Well, and this is another part where I disliked the movie. Like I said, there's a couple things that I disliked about the movie, and it was slow in parts. No. I don't dislike the movie. There's parts that I dislike about the movie. And
But that's not what you just
like
said.
this is another part where I dislike the movie. Right. So there are slow parts, particularly where right before they get the car, is very slow. And then there's a weird shift because, like I said, the movie's a comedy basically with action mixed in, and the part where Nova, that's her name, right?
Cassandra Nova, yes.
So when she starts fingering Logan's mind, it gets real serious real fucking fast. That whole like 15 minutes there where they, they're, which I'm going to skip over the cameo section here and skip right to this. We can go back to the cameo stuff, where she starts getting in his head, and man, it gets serious real fucking fast. And it's just like, it's a switch. Like even the tone, the music changes, the jokes stop, everything switches over to being real serious until she kind of lets them out of that universe, or out of the wasteland or whatever they call it. I forget what she calls it, but out of that into back into the Deadpool's universe. And it's just a weird like 20 minutes there, where there's
It definitely takes a very, very dark turn, and the tone goes very dark, but I feel like it's a good contrast to how the rest of the movie is, because the rest of the movie is almost, again, I don't want to say like there's no point to it, because it is a great movie, but like it's just kind of jokey. Again, they're fighting, they're stabby, so it's like, okay, is this just going to be them running around doing silly shit and fucking fighting each other and stuff? Because if so, I'm still here for it, right? It's still great,
Oh yeah,
but
it was a fun movie. Yeah,
it's like, okay, here's the direction. Okay, now it's getting serious. Now we've got the mission of what we got to do. Arc's completed. Now we got to go put them to good use. And we go into, we go back into the universe there to save the day and save the universe, or his universe. So without going to the end, we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit. Let's focus on the TVA, the timelines. Okay. For anybody who knows the, TVA, obviously Loki seasons 1 and 2 focus really, really heavily on the TVA and Kang the Conqueror. But it's interesting to kind of find out about these anchor points and timelines, right? That Logan was the anchor point for Deadpool's timeline. And without Logan, the timeline will slowly fade away and just disintegrate, and everything will come to an end. That was a little different. I wasn't.
It was abrupt.
That's, to me at least, seems like that's one of those one line of dialogue kind of things.
Yes,
kind of gives you
exactly what I was thinking in the theater.
Yeah,
yep, that's exactly what I was thinking in the theater.
So, because I haven't seen all of season 2 of Loki, I don't know if it's mentioned. Let me know down in the comments. Feel free not to be a dick about it. But let me know down in the comments if that is. But that's just the first I've heard of that. Like like Logan was the anchor point for Deadpool's universe, so now it's coming to an end. I did think it was funny though that they had made the decision that they wanted to bring Deadpool to the Prime Universe, or the Sacred Timeline, or 616.
Yeah. There was, and he brings it up twice, I think, about the scene. Again, there's a spoilers, so
whole fucking episode spoilers. Deal with it, guys.
I mean, yeah, where he sees himself with Thor crying over him, right? And you think that they're going to address this in the film, and they don't. And
he tries to several times.
He does. And this is the part where I think this has to do with what's moving forward. I think this is probably going to play in Secret Wars a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to be a major part, but it may be, because I want to say that we'll skip over cameos because there's a lot of cameos in this film. But maybe it's a case where Deadpool's a cameo in Secret Wars, So I don't know. That's just something that they drew attention to a few times and never explained it. So I'm assuming that has to do with moving forward in phase 4 of the MCU.
The thing is, obviously we've all known it from the time the first Deadpool came out, and it was the highest grossing rated R movie at the time. And I'm like 99% sure that Logan beat it. So it became the highest grossing rated R movie of all time. And now Deadpool 3 is going to take the mantle back. Like, so we've all known, us at least. Now they're finally probably going to hopefully learn it that, the rated R like actiony comedy stuff, even in with superheroes, it works, right? People loved Logan.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we've been waiting for, is to see him hack off body parts and stuff, right? It worked, right? Is having that more adult-ish style characters,
Dude,
or immature in the case of Deadpool, but that's not gonna hold for your entire universe, right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? You're not gonna have Captain America being a rated R movie. We'll get to that in a minute, but where you're not going to have them being like where they are all going to share significant screen time together and it work, right? It works because it's Wolverine and how Wolverine is and how well Logan did. It works with those two, but Thor's not going to have a Deadpool in it, like this, where because you can't have your whole MCU become rated R movies. As much as I think it'd be cool, it depends a lot on kids and the younger audiences and parents wanting their kids to go see these movies to gross $2.6 billion. You're not going to pigeonhole yourself like that. Whereas like with Deadpool, or maybe making a cameo here or there is fine. Because he can even get off, one fuck and it'd be fine, and still get a PG-13 rating. So that's where I kind of feel like maybe they didn't go too far into bringing him into Earth 616 and him staying there, because that's what I thought. I thought the TVA was going to bring him into the MCU, the 616 timeline, and it was going to stay. And maybe that's why they didn't do that.
Yeah, it could be. Like I said, if there was ever a character kind of built for cameo appearances in several different movies, it's Deadpool. You know what I mean? Like, he's just kind of built for that. So, I mean, again, he's done well in his own movies here, clearly. But he is a character that would be perfect for little cameo pop-ups as extras in other MCU films. So that's what I thought when I first saw that, was like, they're going to kind of, because when they didn't address it, after we watched the, I don't know, it felt like 10 minutes of credit scene or credits that there is an end credit scene in this movie at the very, like, literally the very end of it. It doesn't pertain to anything story arc wise or anything like that. It's just really funny. It's really funny. If you didn't watch it or whatever at the theater, that's fine. It's not like you miss anything. It just it addresses something earlier in the film that was really funny.
Don't worry, we're gonna spoil it for you here in a minute. So
yeah. Can we get into the thing that like I said at the beginning of this, was like a double-edged sword for me, and that's the cameos, because there's so many references and cameos in this film. It is redonkulous.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second, because Mantis and I had discussed, we're recording this on a Saturday. We normally record our videos on Thursdays, and we had discussed doing a Deadpool, like, leading up to, expectations and everything with Deadpool 3. And I pulled a bunch of information. I already knew a lot, so I pulled a lot of information, had just so, we could kind of discuss. And I saw who all the cameos, already knew who the cameos were going to be. And I already had all that spoiled for me. And when he said, because we hadn't watched any other trailers, when he said he didn't want to know, I was like, all right, I took that down. I was like, nope, we're not going to go through that. We're not going to do that video, because didn't want it spoiled, because there are some crazy cameos in this. You want to lead us off?
Yeah. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword for me, because the cameos were so good. Well, like 90% of them were good. I'll start with the good ones. Obviously, you had several of the characters that were in X-Men, the 20th Century Fox films. You had Azazel, Toad was in there. Juggernaut. That Juggernaut was from. Was that the same guy from Deadpool 2?
No. So that Juggernaut is supposed to be the Juggernaut from X-Men Last Stand. It's just a different actor. So when they had approached the original actor about it, he wasn't interested in doing it.
Okay.
So they were trying to make that him, but it's a different actor.
Okay. So and then you had Pyro. I mean, you had some of these cameos, but then then you get into
Lady Deathstrike was in there.
Yeah. And then the best flip, because the first, I say, cameo you see in it is Chris Evans.
Is that the first one?
I think so.
That is not the first one. Let me tell you the first one, if you don't remember. So in the movie, he's going and looking for a Wolverine. He's got to find a Wolverine to bring to his timeline to fill the gap. Okay, the first real one you see is this buff motherfucker, and you're like, okay, that's Hugh Jackman, all looking ripped and stuff. And I already knew, because I knew what. So as soon as I saw him, I knew who it was. All of a sudden, Wolverine turns on, because there's all the different variants. He's trying to find one. Is Henry Cavill as Wolverine.
Oh man, and they trash fucking DC. Like, he lets DC fucking have it. Not Henry Cavill, but Ryan Reynolds, or
he called it out how they did him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which we did a video on who would be the best Wolverine moving forward a little bit on a previous video. Like, fuck man, seeing Henry Cavill's Wolverine, I'm here for it, man. Like, let's fucking go. Like,
he does look pretty good as Wolverine. He's in the beater.
Yeah.
So that's actually the first real cameo you see.
Yeah, you do see Wolverine with, like, you see several versions of Wolverine, like actual comic book. There's the one where he's on the X, that he's impaled on the X, but then you see the one where he's like the little mini one that's like a short version, and I'm just like, holy fuck! I just started like, that was fucking great. And you're right. And then I'll kind of skip because he finds obviously the right one. We're not gonna go through the fucking plot.
He finds the movie. A1.
yeah. And then the I guess the second cameo, you could say, they run into, and it's, man, they set it up so great, because you think it's fucking like some busted Captain America, right? Chris Evans is there, and fuck, he does, it's fucking, he's the Human Torch.
When he's sitting there, because Deadpool's like, oh, he's about to, because he thinks he's going to break out into his Captain America line. And he says, "Flame on!" And he's like, what?
Happens next?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, he's gonna say it. Oh my god, he's gonna say it! Say what? Avengers! Flame on! Sorry, what now?
It's so good. It's so good. It's so great. Like, that, I didn't see that coming, because they set it up perfectly. Like, you see the red and the blue on his arm, right? And then it's just boom, flame on. Like, I'm like, oh, that's fucking great, man. So good. And then there's a couple of, moving on from there's a couple other cameos. Obviously, Wesley Snipes, which you get to see Wesley Snipes play Blade, and he's kicking ass. And he says a couple of little knocks, about Blade, and motherfuckers, like, always are trying to
ice skate uphill.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Which is
it's so great
from the original.
You get to see Elektra die on screen again, which Jennifer Garner, whatever. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of Elektra, so it's whatever on her side. But the thing that kind of disappointed me about some of those, again, Elektra was a kind of a weird thing in there. I wish they would have picked someone else. And then I was excited to see Gambit, but like, Gambit is not big. Gambit is a thin guy. He's not buff. And Channing Tatum just is not right for that role. Now, I will say this, his accent was pretty fucking spot on. Like, the Cajun talk, the South Louisiana talk, he had that spot on. The only thing I will say, he's not the type build for that character. Gambit is a thin guy. He's not buff. And also, man, he looked like he was about to, like, explode out of that fucking suit, man. It was like his face was barely contained in that fucking suit.
To be fair, he's been in the void for God knows how long. Maybe he just bulked up, man. It's bulking season.
Maybe, but like, that's kind of I didn't particularly care for that part, but it was
still good.
I was good because Gambit's my favorite X-Men, maybe my favorite Marvel character. It was awesome to see him fight and do some of the stuff that maybe, I don't know, some normies don't really know about Gambit. Especially if you haven't seen X-Men 97, you need to fucking watch it, because he's awesome in that. Aside from the whole weird bi thing they did with him in there. Side note on that, but I will say They brought in, I forget her name in the movie because she was in Logan as well, same actress,
Daphne Keane.
X-23. Yes, she actually was pretty good in this film. I think she did a pretty good job as X-23, a way better job than she did in The Acolyte. I don't know what the fuck they did with her in that fucking series, but she did pretty well, I think. So and again, the problem with this, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Is I already know these. Like, it's a big, like, they shot their load, right? So now, like, I just don't know about the rewatchability of this film as far as that. Like, all these cameos are such a huge part of this film. And now I already know everything about it, and I know what's going to happen, and I know the cameos. So it's just, I'm just like, man, okay. I already know these cameos now. So that part's kind of gone from it. I don't know.
So here's kind of final thoughts wrapping up, because I don't want this video to go super crazy long on this.
Oh,
is
God, yeah.
The movie was great, hilarious. The cameos, like Mantis was just saying, are amazing. They were awesome to see some of these people, and again, kind of like with Gambit, I know we've seen him before in X-Men Origins. Wolverine, like I know we got to see a version of him, but to actually get to see him and have a little more screen time with him, and Blade and things like those were great. But at the end of the day, like, okay, so like at the beginning of the movie, you could tell from the original trailer that he and Vanessa weren't together because she calls him buddy. She goes, "Make a wish, buddy." I'm like, yeah, that's not good. If a girl's calling you buddy on your birthday and all that stuff, she's already left you in her head.
Yeah.
So, like, you knew something was going on, and it was about him trying to become, like, better. But really, from the beginning of the movie to we bring it to the end of the movie, they saved the timeline. Yes, I get that was the whole point of it. But, like, from a standpoint of where we're at before that, we didn't really gain a lot of ground, right? Like, it basically went from here. We did all this stuff, found out the timeline, all this stuff. But when we come back to the end, we're literally basically back where we picked up from. And it was like all that stuff was just kind of in limbo there. But we end up right back where we were before, when the movie started. So, again, maybe that's because they just realized, yeah, it's funny to bring him into the MCU and have him say some lines and have some of the cameos, but you realize you're not going to ever really be able to fully incorporate Deadpool into the MCU being a rated R character, right? To stay what everybody loves, you're not going to be able to bring him into. He's not going to be in an Avengers movie with your core Avengers. And it's just not going to happen. Otherwise, they're going to have to like downplay him, and then the diehard fans are going to hate it. So maybe that's why this was kind of maybe the end. This was the trilogy, and this is where they're going to end it. They just wanted to go out with a bang, make it hilarious, and do something that we haven't seen in Marvel or DC thus far. Because Spider-Man No Way Home had a lot of the like bring in all the three different Spider-Man. This just took it to a whole different level of fucking hilarity and violence, which I love.
Yeah. I will say my final thoughts. It was a good film. I enjoyed myself. I'll probably watch it again. Just because I know there's a lot of Easter eggs in this film that I know I missed. If not for just that reason alone, to kind of rewatch it. Hugh Jackman again, is seeing him with the mask on and in the suit was fantastic. And he's a great actor.
The mask on is awesome.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, this whole movie is fan service. They're not hiding it, and that's okay. Because again, this is like you said, it's kind of a self-contained thing. It didn't progress realistically anything inside of Phase 4, if you want to call it that. Like, it didn't progress the overarching thing of anything.
I feel like we're Phase 5, right?
Maybe. I sure.
think so. Or we're starting.
I mean, it didn't.
Start.
Yeah, it didn't progress anything. Again, Hugh Jackman he's just awesome. He did such a great job of, as he always does with Wolverine and Logan. But even in the serious scenes, he did really well too. I would say kind of the most disappointing thing was not the most disappointing thing. One thing I kind of was two things, I guess. One, I wish they would have Lady Deadpool, because you see her when they do the fight scene between
All of the
Deadpool,
Deadpools.
Wolverine, and all the Deadpools. I wish she would have taken her mask off and it would have been another Ryan Reynolds. That would have been funny. Someone else mentioned that I was reading. That would have been fucking funny. But isn't that
That's Blake Lively.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Blake. That's his wife. Now, I do think Kindpool was hilarious.
It kind of got annoying, and another thing that was overplayed way too much, in my opinion, was the dog pool. I could have done the joke was funny the first time. That's funny, I guess. Just that, whatever. Like, it was just too much, I guess, in my opinion. They kept going back to it. Could have done without that. Could have done something else. But overall, again, a fun film. As far as rated R films go, it's hilarious. There's so many jokes in this film. You got to come into this. It's not your normal MCU movie. It's a rated R romp. Like, it's grotesque. It's gory. There's fuck is said a lot. Adult jokes. This is not a kids movie, and that's okay because it fits in with the other Deadpool movies. Again, like I said at the beginning, I didn't like it as much as the first one, and it's not like the second one was much better than this one. In fact, I don't know. This one may be better than the second one.
I would put this one above the second one.
The second one, the only thing the second one I like better is Juggernaut in that film is so fucking awesome. Like, Juggernaut in Deadpool 2 is so good.
It's been a dream of mine to see my face reflected in your helmet as you charge at me with murderous intent. I don't mean right now.
I'm gonna rip you in half now.
That is such a Juggernaut thing to say.
But other than that, it's pretty good. It's pretty good as far as if you're talking about like MCU movies. Fuck, man, it's up there. It's pretty good as far as MCU movies go. So
for those
go
of
see
you,
it.
Well, you should already seen it. Again, we told you at the beginning. You should have seen it before watching this episode here. Maybe go see it again. I know, like I really want to, but I might end up just waiting for it to come out to streaming.
I'm not going to pay to see it again.
That's so. But we also have, guys, it'll be coming out after this one because, like, we are recording this and I'm going to start editing. I'm going to get selling out ASAFP. But we also are going to have a video that we've already recorded where we discuss the fate of Wolverine after Deadpool 3, right? And part of this kind of confirms what we were discussing in that episode. So what you hear in that might now seem kind of trite versus now what we know about, or at least what we have strong evidence over. I guess they haven't actually ever confirmed it, but kind of where they left things. So be looking for that one as well. If you are subscribed to the channel and have the bell notification clicked, you will get alerted when that video comes out after this one. And if you have made it with us this far, I'm going to probably at least hack off a little bit of this because this one ran a little long, but there was a lot to talk about. Consider giving this video a like. He is going to show you where. Okay. And then let us know down in the comments. How did you feel about the movie? Where would you rank this? Or even just give your ranking for the Deadpool movies. What's your favorite, 1, 2, and 3? Where would you put them in order? Because I feel like 1 is just iconic, and then I would put Deadpool 3. I want to give Deadpool 3 more just because with Hugh Jackman in there, that was the duo we were waiting for, and seeing him in the actual authentic suit. But I would probably put 1, 3, 2. But let us know what you think, and then what do you think about it? Like, where does this leave off? Or do you think Deadpool's ever going to actually join the MCU and be in a Thor movie? Maybe have Thor hold him, Thor be crying. He just took the place of Loki. We don't know.
Yeah. I would give this movie a 7.
I might go a little higher. Like I said, I'd laugh through.
I'd
laugh the whole fucking movie.
Look, you know me. I'm very strict on my ratings as far as movies go. Like, it's really great, okay, and shit. So, like, 7 is pretty good for me because, like, a 10, was the original Star Wars trilogy, Lord of the Rings, the OG of Lord of the Rings. Those films are fucking great.
First and foremost, don't let him lie to you. His scale is like great, okay, Yeah, is the rest of it, right? Like that's his grading skill.
The
Don't worry.
great is there's very few films
Everything
that get in
is
the great
fine
section.
to him. Doesn't matter what what do you think about it? It was fine. Fine is the biggest section that he has on his goddamn grading
This
skill.
is true.
So don't let
This
him
is
lie
true.
to you on that.
This is true. This is true.
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this on up. That'll do it for us on this episode of You, Me, and DC. Until next time, we will see you then.
Later.